Now, as a player, what did you enjoy more? Did you enjoy playing in the Mexican League or Major League Soccer? Did you like the pressure, or did you find it a little bit easier in Major League Soccer because maybe the fans weren't as clued in as what the Mexican fans were?
So I can automatically tell why Jimmy liked Liga MX. It's a very technical league, and Jimmy was a very technical player. Jimmy would have thrived in an environment like that, where he got to kind of use his brain a lot more, because MLS back then was, and it's still a very physical league, but it's a lot more tactical now than it used to be. But Liga MX, the one thing I loved the most about it was just how important football was. I went from, I lived in LA and I got to play in Colorado, scored the first goal in that stadium. So people would recognize me, because it was a big deal when the team first came out, and I was in Kansas City, and every once in a while you would get recognized by like hardcore MLS fans. But there's nothing like the PR machine that is Liga MX, that is Mexican football. We're in a country of 340 million here in the States, and the football that reigns supreme isn't the Champions League, isn't the Premier League, isn't La Liga. It's Liga MX, and it's been like that for a while. So you're successful in Liga MX, and you get recognized everywhere. If you guys have ever been to LA, Manhattan Beach is a very nice place, and there aren't too many Latinos around, and I remember having dinner with a buddy, and there's this very nice place called Maggiano's on the pier, and it was right after I think I had won the goal scoring title, and I was about to go to the 30-man camp for the U.S. men's national team. And from there, you go to the World Cup. They whittle it down to 23, and I was having dinner.
That sounds like a gay pornography.
It does, right?
Just say we whittled it down to the 30.
I immediately regret. I take that back.
You got Robert's attention right away with that one.
Strike that from the record.
Welcome to Footy Prime, by the way.
Herculez. Welcome to Footy Prime.
Yeah. Wow, we went there. But I remember being at this Italian restaurant, and it's a beautiful Italian restaurant, and having dinner with my buddy, and literally not a hint of somebody knows who you are, and I didn't expect anybody to know who I am. It's like my first real season in Mexico, where it's like everybody knows who you are in Mexico, everybody. But I'm in the States in Manhattan Beach having dinner, and the check comes, and the manager comes over, and he goes, excuse me, sir, would it be possible for you to take a picture with a few of the guys? They recognize you, and they're really excited. And I'm just like, oh yeah, absolutely. So, okay, we'll see you out in front. As we come up, the whole kitchen staff comes out, and it's in Manhattan Beach, and there's like 12 guys who are taking a picture with me. It looked like a team photo, and you just see all these people, like in the restaurant, all white people, just like looking around like, the fuck is going on? Like, who is this? And it's just, but they were like so excited, shaking your hand. They wanted to talk to you, and it's the craziest thing. So to go back to what you were saying is, I enjoyed Liga MX more because the football just was so much more important. And everywhere you went, they recognized you. For better or worse, it was so important, and the attention was so massive, and it just felt like what you thought, professional football was supposed to be. Like when you're dreaming of playing professional football, like this is what I thought it would be like. It felt like that.
Do you ever foresee the Major League Soccer being like that, Herculez? I mean, it's taken massive leaps forward for sure, but
yes.
Do you ever see it getting there?
I see it now. Listen, I live in LA, and LA fans are rabid, both sides of it, and it doesn't. And they consume their sport so well. Whether it's the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Galaxy, LAFC, whatever the case may be, they know exactly who their players are. They know exactly everything about them. And you look at other markets like Cincinnati, Brandon Vasquez, like when Rayados de Monterrey go play, Cincinnati FC Cincinnati in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Brandon Vasquez is going to be the most famous person in that city. I see these pockets where football it matters, but it can't just matter in these local markets. And what I mean by that is like Max Kellerman used to have this saying where like, and you guys will know this, Canada is much more prominent when it comes to hockey, but like every hockey arena in the States can fill up, right? Like there's no problem filling up the hockey arenas. It looks great. I'm from Vegas, and my family, like my brothers and sisters have never seen an ice rink in their life, and they're like massive Golden Knight fans now. Every arena in hockey can fill up. Can you make people watch you on TV? Can you make people care about you outside of your market? That's where I think Major League Soccer is going to have the difficulty. But to what you're mentioning right now, I think,
What was
yeah,
that?
somebody's getting killed
Honestly,
out
I've got 4 13-year-old girls upstairs. It's lunchtime, and they're pissing me off. They're so noisy, so I apologize.
No, you're fine. But to answer your question, Craig, I think it's already there in some markets, locally,
Right.
where football matters. I just don't think it's there nationally or in the TV market yet, where it's like everywhere you go, it's like that.
No, that, the big thing for me, I was looking at your resume, Hercules, and I saw Seattle, and I want to talk about Seattle because I had to go out there for work back in my old days. That is a soccer town.
Oh yeah.
And so when you see these examples of success, I guess yes, they can fill the stadium, but Seattle's one of those, they cross boundary when they're other teams, they fill up their stadiums. How does the rivalries, because I would argue rivalries create buzz creates broadcasting. And
Yeah.
how do they build on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's why I hate how they do these. The American, like Major League Soccer, I love them. I love Major League Soccer, and it's funny because I'm in this weird area where like people in Mexico think I defend MLS and U.S. soccer, and people in the States think I like shit on MLS and U.S. soccer and whatnot. I'm in this weird little gray area, but I hate how Americanized we make things. Like you don't need conferences. And a perfect example of that is like if I'm a Seattle Sounder fan, could you imagine MLS Cup, the Seattle Sounders versus the Portland Timbers? Could you imagine what that would be like? Like that, you eliminate these like organic ways of having rivalries. I understand that you want to make Portland Seattle a rivalry if you're Major League Soccer, but there's no need to pit them against each other 5 times in a year.
Yeah.
They'll play Open Cup against each other. Well, maybe not now, but they'll play Open Cup against
well,
each
that's
other.
another question.
You know what I mean? But you can do things to make it organic. And going back to Seattle's one of the few proper footballing cultures we have. I mean, stretches back 50 years of history in a country that has rich history. You just don't celebrate. Like soccer's been around for 100 years. The Open Cup's been around for 100 years. Like you can celebrate it in a way that makes sense. Sure, Major League Soccer's going on close to 30, but the Seattle Sounders have 50 years of rich tradition. The Portland Timbers have years of rich tradition. The San Jose Earthquakes have years of rich tradition. And even if you don't have that name, St. Louis has plenty of years of rich tradition. You can celebrate it. So there are ways of doing it that makes sense, that you don't have to force and spoon feed. We're American. This is how we do it, and we don't care. Like there are ways of doing things.
When you look at Major League Soccer right now, you're on 29 teams. You got San Diego, who's coming in next, taking it to 30 teams. Is that too many teams? And do you also think that it'd be more beneficial at one point? It'll probably never happen. Having a promotion relegation in probably 2 divisions rather than have 30 odd teams, and I'm sure they'll probably continue with expansion over the next years.
Yeah, here's the problem with promotion relegation with just MLS is it's just MLS, right? Like there's no way, like Joey Bats, who just purchased the Las Vegas Lights, and who's just dumping a ton of money into that team, and that team has changed. Like it's night and day now, and they're USL. Like they're going to be prime contenders in that league in the USL. That's what the rest of the world does. Let me see if I can take something that's nothing right now and create it into something. That's promotion relegation. If the Las Vegas Lights were to one day be in MLS because they earned it on the field, not you buy a $350 million spot or stake and then you go down in your own division per se, right? What would that mean? That you get less media rights, less share of the media rights if you get relegated type of deal? It's still a closed off pyramid. So I would love for it to be an open pyramid. And I know when Jimmy sent me some of the topics, there was like, what would you do in Major League Soccer type of deal? And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you've got to be already to the stage where you're like 30 years have gone by. We've done what we needed to do to prop up the league in a way. Cause I was here when the league had 10 teams, right? Yeah. They folded Miami, they folded Tampa Bay. At one point through that stay, they let go of the San Jose Earthquakes and sent them to Houston, and then decided that was a terrible idea and brought back San Jose. you're not there anymore. That's not MLS point 1. You're past MLS point 2. I would argue you're probably at MLS, 3.5 going on 4 now. So you don't need single entity. And people will say, teams have the ability to do their own contracts. MLS grants you the right to do your own contracts. They're still their contracts, right? Yeah. They don't want you bidding on the same player. They want 2 teams bidding on the same player. I want 2 teams bidding on the same player. I want to see what happens when FC Dallas is sitting on oil right now with the amount of youth that's in Texas, when they don't have homegrown territories, when they got to go out and pursue players. What's that going to look like, right? When they got to go out and actually scout, what's Clark Hunt going to do when he has to invest, and not just say I'm sitting on oil, like that's what I want to see happen. And I think Major League Soccer is there. I'd love to see a sink or swim situation when it comes to Major League Soccer.
But the issue is with the franchise fees as they are, these owners, they want cost certainty, they want guarantees. And at the expense, perhaps, of what you can gain from the sporting model of promotion relegation. Is there a window down the line where Mexico and the States and Canada, of course, merge at some point? Obviously, with the Leagues Cup, you got the Champions Cup. We're seeing more and more matches between the 2-3 leagues. But is that possible? Could it work? Would Mexico accept that?
I'm sure Mexico would want that. They see the writing on the wall. I'm first generation Mexican American, and my kids are second generation Mexican American. Their kids will be third, et cetera, et cetera. At some point along the line, just like you guys in Canada, a little bit of that language will be lost, and a little bit of that culture may be lost. Hopefully, it won't. And they'll start consuming the game differently, and they'll grow up with not just one team but multiple teams. Like many Mexican Americans in this country, they don't just cheer for a Liga MX team; they have an MLS team, they have a Premier League team, they have a La Liga team. So that's going to get diluted. So I'm sure Liga MX would love that, especially with the financial power the MLS owners have. Why wouldn't you want to get into bed with them? Necaxa was sold for $50 million, and 25 million. They gave him half of what the team was worth. And they have celebrity ownership. Eva Longoria, sure. Right. Ozil, Kate Upton, et cetera. 25 million. You know what 25 million is going to get you in MLS? Thiago Almada.
You'll be able to use the urinals on the third.
I don't even know, but you might be able to rent them. They're not going to be yours though. And the reality of the thing is, I forgot his name. I think it's Foley. I think it's Bill Foley. He's the owner of. Oh my goodness, he went into business with Michael B. Jordan and bought a team in the Premier League. And you got to forgive me on the team, and you got to forgive me on his name. But what I'm trying to get to is he was interested in bringing a team to Las Vegas, a Major League Soccer team. And he literally said, I'd have to go $1 billion in on a Major League Soccer team. Half of that on the franchise fee, the other half on securing stadium and all these other things, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I can go get a Premier League team right now for less than 300 million, So it's that's a Premier League team. So there's certain things that don't make sense when it comes to Major League Soccer and how you go about it. And at some point, these fees are going to dry up. Like you can't continue, having expansion teams. At some point, that's going to dry up. What do you do, to survive when it dries up?
Yeah, and I think it was Bournemouth. I think that was a club.
I think so. I believe so. I got to check
Bill
it.
Foley. I just
Bill. It is Bill Foley. It's Bill Foley. I was right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The Vegas Golden Knights owner as well, right?
And it's AFC Bournemouth.
Yes.
Yeah.